Okay, I'm just gonna record this. Okay.
I'm already recording.
Because you may be wondering why you're here.
I have no idea. All I know is I am brown. That's what I've been told.
Yes, that is unfortunately me minimizing your culture too. Yes, you are brown, Taha. But we'll talk about that in a second.
Dissect it. What is your vibe? What are you? Where are you from?
Okay, well, I was born in Canada, lived here my whole life. But my parents, I think they have the more confusing background, which is why I've been a little confused, you know? My mom, she was born in Trinidad, but her parents are half Trini and half Guyanese, so kind of around the same region of the world, but they have like Indian and Chinese descent in that side. I don't know how influential that is in the culture of Guyana and Trinidad. I know that there's just a lot of immigrants in those countries. So it's like countries of immigrants moving to countries of immigrants, lots of moving on that side. And then my dad's side, he was born in Tanzania, which is like east. You probably know where it is. Maybe you do. Yes.
I'm bad at geography though.
It's like in the east side, eastern side of Africa, east, south, somewhere around there. And then his parents,
the right side.
That side.
Yeah.
Right. The right side.
As in, yeah. I just think right and left when I look at maps.
The right side of the continent. And then his parents, like, both were from Goa originally, which is a province of India. My whole life, though, I thought Goa was a country. It's not a country. It's a province of India. And I didn't know that until last year.
Until I'm last
22
year?
years old. I'm 22 years old. I finally just decided to Google it, and I was like, wait, why isn't it a country?
Yeah, the country of Goa that I am
maybe
from.
It was.
Maybe it was. I mean, India and that whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Confusing. I don't. But yeah, anyways, I've always just I've never said I was Indian, and I always just said I was from Goa because that's what my family said they were from. So I kind of went with that.
Yeah.
All of my siblings, I'm the oldest one, so all my siblings are like, when people ask them where they're from, they're just like, meh.
Meh. They just scream at the person asking. They're just like, meh.
Yeah, that's my background.
So if someone asks you like where are you from, what do you say?
Like, well, funny enough, I was working last week and it was so loud in the restaurant. And this one girl, she was like yelling over the speakers. And I didn't really understand what she was saying. And I thought that she asked, where are you from? And I was kind of like taken like off guard because I was just like, I've been talking to you for an hour. And I mean, I guess you like no context, just shouted that. And then I was like, well, like I'm Trini, Guyanese, and Goan. And like I just say those countries without really any context of like, just like they're just the countries. It turns out she didn't ask that question. She was asking where the bathroom was. And I just kind of stood there awkwardly like, I'm just gonna walk away now. It's that way. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just answered those countries, but I don't know. All those countries are full of immigrants, and if people are asking like, what do you look like? Like, why do you look like that? And you're from these places. It's just like, well, I guess I'm Indian and Chinese, but I've never ever really connected to those cultures because I feel so far removed from the places that like my family has just been. But yeah, if I don't feel like going into that whole story, I'll just be like, I was born in Canada, and then they'll do the whole, where are you from? But like, like the where are you from thing.
Where are you from? Where are you really from? Wait, well, no, but where you really? I got a lot of that when I went to uni. There was a lot of sort of like, so like, where are you from? And the really awkward thing about that is, it's like, not only do you not know what they're asking, but also, even if you're like, I think I know what you're really asking, you don't know how to navigate it. So like, I don't know, like when I was at uni, if someone asks you, where are you from? They could be asking which university accommodation you're staying at. They could be asking like, where in the country you're coming from to come study at university. They could be asking like what your ethnicity is. It's all complicated. And then like because I've got the British accent, like British people might be asking like, oh, where in the country are you from? Because you're coming to uni. Like I want to know like if you're near where I live. Right. But then they could also just be like, are you from the same accommodation as me? So it was a whole minefield. And I just basically started like directly asking people what they actually mean. And the way I would do that is they would be like, so where are you from? I would say, well, what do you mean? And they would be like, either they would be like, oh, like where'd you grow up or whatever. Or they'll be like, and I'd be like, yeah, I'll be like, well, I don't. And like I started doing that for a bit, whereas like, oh, they'll be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, where are you from? And I'm like, I don't know. But then I found that to be like really boring or like really tedious because we all know what they're actually asking, which is like, what type of brown are you? Yeah. And so I just started asking, I just started telling people when they would be like, I'd be like, oh, you're asking me what type of brown I am? And people would be like, but like that is what they're asking, right? They're like, why are you brown and what exact type of brown are you? Obviously people don't like to use that language because it's pretty
provocative.
It's just awkward. But yeah, I just started embracing the awkwardness of it because I was just like, yeah, I can tell you what type of brown I am, but I need you to ask me the question. Like,
Well, Taha, what type of brown are you? Just for the sake of clarification in this video.
I am British Pakistani. So I was born in Saudi Arabia, but that was because my parents were working there at the time. I have no sort of like cultural or ethnic relation to the country of Saudi Arabia, apart from just I was born there. My parents are from Pakistan, and then when we were very young, we immigrated to the UK. And as I grew up, I was Pakistani until I was 16, 15. And then we got our British citizenship. So, classic immigrant story, moved here, lived here, got the citizenship. And now I'm like British Pakistani. And I feel like within myself, I don't feel Pakistani and I don't feel British. I feel British Pakistani, like as one thing, because
molded them together.
Yeah.
Like made a new thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not just like it's not British and Pakistani. It's like one thing called British Pakistani. Because if I talk to like Pakistani people who are living in Pakistan, I don't relate to the same experiences that they have. But if I talk to British people who aren't also British Pakistani, then I'm not relating to the same experiences they had. So the only people I'm relating to is the British Pakistanis. So I feel like that's me. It's like I'm a British Pakistani as one thing.
It's like that exact formula of things kind of living in this like floating space.
Yeah. So that's me. That's my identity in a nutshell. That's the type of brown I am.
I don't know how to put mine in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, you have a way more complicated, because that's the other thing. It's like what do people want to know? And it's like they want to know, like they just want to know, like, oh, my parents are from, like, I'm brown because I'm Pakistani, but culturally, I'm British Pakistani.
That's another thing too, like, like the difference between like your race or your ethnicity and like the actual cultures that you celebrate. I don't know. I've always been confused about all of those different. I literally don't.
That could be its own video on itself. It could just be like breaking down the difference between all of those things, because they're so interconnected but also so distinct that like I spend a lot of my time being like, well, let me explain the difference. But that is
all right.
A different shelf that for later.
But yeah, I don't know. Even though I have like these different backgrounds, I've never like created an identity that like bridged all these cultures together. I just kind of like chilled here in Canada and did my own thing. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
bad for like not really wanting to learn about all of these cultures, or just like not wanting to remember 5 different ones and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
take like a little piece of there. Cause like what is that? You know, I feel like that diminishes the culture so much because you're just like, well, take, a little tenth of that, a little slice of that, a little
Yeah,
slice of
yeah.
that.
I feel like it's not active. Like I'm not like actively like, I'm going to participate in the culture. Num, 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 num,
Yeah.
num, participation. I'm just like, oh, I'm just vibing and I'm like being Pakistani and I'm being British and I'm doing both of those things at the same time. And like I'm just kind of
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's not as like mushed or like not as
Yeah.
like clear where I'm not like, oh, let's take, like if you're like a buffet, you're like, oh, I'm going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of this. Whereas I feel
Yeah.
like my culture is just like soup, just everything, just all in one thing. And I'm just like, oh, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like everything's like mixed together rather than like I'm like individually deciding to pick from everything.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know. For me, the way that I've like really experienced any of my cultures, because I've only visited one of the countries where my parents are from, Trinidad. That's the only one. The other ones are so far away. And then I don't know. My grandpa was just like, "Why do you want to go to Guyana? There's nothing there." And I'm like, "I'm sure there's something there, but you just don't want to go back."
Yeah.
But like during holidays and stuff, I feel like it's just been an amalgamation of different foods from everywhere that we just try. And I'm
Mm.
like, cool, that tastes good. Yeah, I don't know. I just never really felt confident saying Canadian. Like I would just say it as like a joke as I was a kid, being like, yeah, I'm just Canadian. I don't want to tell you the whole
Mm.
story. I don't know. It just doesn't feel honest because I think you should maybe pay attention to where you're from. I think that's important, but yeah, I don't know. Like you seem pretty confident just saying like, I'm British Pakistani, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's a long journey to get there because it was
Yeah.
like, but I also feel like my whole thing is a little less complicated because it's like I'm in a place that I've lived all my life, and I'm from a place that my whole family and the like my household in
Right.
like my household is Pakistani, right? It's like the cultural touchstones that we have within the house and like the food and just like the general vibe is a very Pakistani household. And
Mhm.
then I go out into the world and I'm British. Um, so
Do
yeah,
do you feel like it's like a dual identity, or do you think it's just like one? Do you
I
think
think I think for many years, when I first moved here, like the first sort of 10 years of living in the UK, I feel like it was dual, but like as we as a family became more like comfortable and made Britain our home, it
yeah.
became like more like connected. And like I think that also changes just like our attitudes. Like I think our attitudes have become like a mixture of Pakistani attitudes towards the world, but also British attitudes towards the world. And then on top of that, I think that has changed a little bit how we like eat food, because I think before we would have like every day we would have like curries and like Pakistani food, curries, biryanis, all of that
Mhm.
stuff. And then I think like I would reflect on like the last like 4 or 5 years, and it's like I feel like we're now like having more what British people would have more often than we used to. I think we would have it like maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. We would have like I don't know. I mean, British cuisine isn't like groundbreaking. It's like salmon and chips. It's like oh, um, but now we have like I think we have that type of food more because I think that's also reflected in just like who we are as a family.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Do you think that it's like what are the different ways then that you connect to your different cultures? Just to, like clarify
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I guess the way that I connect to my different cultures, I definitely think that like being in a household where like everyone is Pakistani means that we can like
Mhm.
really be Pakistani,
Mhm.
um, and interact with other people who understand that culture, and also sort of like phoning other people in our family and that type of stuff, is really sort of important. But then also I think the food is like a massive part of it because I think that like the food of Pakistan has so much like history and like culture wrapped up in it, and like when you're cooking that food and when you're like, I don't know, engaging in the process of food, of cultural
Mhm.
food, I feel
Mhm.
like I'm like demonstrating my culture, or like performing my culture, or like actually interacting with it in some way. And I think that's really important when you live outside of the like actual country, right? Because it's like the way that
Yeah.
the way that I participate in Britishness is literally just by existing in Britain, right? I don't have to try as hard to like interact with my own culture, but
Yeah.
being Pakistani, it's like, okay, you know, interacting with Pakistani friends and Pakistan in general, and sort of, I don't know, but I also don't know
Yeah.
what it means to interact with culture, because I'm like, I'm just kind of eating food. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't
That's
feel like this
same.
grand statement, like, oh, I'm interacting with culture because I'm eating rice. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
Yeah. Am I doing my
I like,
culture a disservice? You
yeah,
know?
it's like now, I don't know, I've got like, I'm at university and I've got some recipes from my parents who were taught by their parents, and you know, they come
Yeah.
from like Pakistani tradition. But also I'm like, oh well, you know, I like curry, and that's what I've grown up on. I don't want to
Yeah.
bother my mum every time I want to have like get a recipe or something. So sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I'll just Google a recipe. But then I feel like I'm just like cooking some random recipe online. And then I'm like, am I like participating in my own culture? Like, what am I doing here? Because I'm like, this is like the BBC curry that I've just got, like the BBC Good Foods recipe. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I do feel that though, like when I'm eating food from all these different places, it's like, I don't know, maybe it kind of like takes you home in a sense.
Mm,
Maybe it's just like a small way to participate in your culture, but I don't know, when I'm having like saltfish cakes around like Easter time, or like I don't know, when like you said, like when like the outside environment is not what like your culture is inside your house, it's like it's the only way that you can really
mm.
like
Replicate it.
yeah. Even though I don't
I
know what I'm replicating because I've never been there.
I
I'm
also think that
replicating a
like,
feeling.
replicating a feeling, but also I think smell is a big part of it, because whenever I like, because rice is such a big part of like Pakistani cuisine,
Mhm.
the house always smelt of like like rice being cooked, because rice was cooked every day, right? So it was just
Yeah.
like, whenever I smell that sort of like that like rice being cooked smell, I'm like, oh, you know, I feel at home, because it's like
Yeah.
this is like the food, the taste, and like the smell is all associated with my upbringing, which is all like to do with being who I am and like my culture, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a reminder. It's like what's that thing? It's like, what
I
is it?
like but
A light bulb? Did you
I don't
say?
know. A reminder.
No. Not a. It's like that thing. Like, so you know how like on Facebook they have that thing where it's like 1 year ago today. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like food does that for me, right? Because it's like I eat the like like I taste the things that I associate with the rest of my culture, and I'm like, I'm
Mm.
transported back to sort of being a kid and like being in Pakistan and like enjoying all of that. And I feel like that's like a
Yeah.
small way that I can quietly be like, hmm.
Yeah.
Like it brings all of these memories back that like reinforces like who I am. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Not to yeah. Not to Pixar this moment, but like, like in Ratatouille, and that guy is just like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the vegetables." It's
Yeah.
just
When that guy's
vegetables
like,
now.
yeah, the literally the ratatouille that he eats, and it's like transports him back to his mum's like cooking, and like it's
Yeah.
like clearly like there's something wrapped up in food that's like different. It just hits different, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
For sure.
weird. Oh, the you should put like some Ratatouille-esque animations. I don't know. Growing up, I was one of the only sort of brown people in my school. I was the only Pakistani, and like I think that like I felt embarrassed about just I like there was like a distance that I had from that type of stuff growing up, just because I wanted to fit in at school and like that type of stuff. Um, but at the same time, I would like I don't know, when you grow up like eating a certain type of food and like being around a certain culture, it is what you're comfortable with. So I don't know. I think like deep down, I knew that I was comfortable with my culture. I just like was embarrassed by it, because the other thing is, I couldn't imagine eating any other type of food every day. You know what I mean? Like I think about like I don't want to eat cheese sandwiches and fish and chips.
Did they actually just eat plain cold cheese sandwiches? That is what I'm imagining, man. Cold cheese sandwiches. Are they not even
I
hot?
remember as a kid, like people bringing in lunch boxes and their like sandwich was just like cheese. It was just like cheddar cheese, like butter and just bread. Now, if you put this in the video, disclaimer, guys, British people don't come for me. I know there's also like BLTs and like other types of sandwiches. I'm just saying, who invented the cheese sandwich? That's all I'm saying. Why does that exist?
You need some butter on the outside or mayonnaise on the outside.
Yeah,
Fried on a hot pan.
But then I would feel embarrassed when I had my little like stinky curry, and I'd be like, I would love it. I'd be like, yum yum. But then at the same time, it was like embarrassing.
Disclaimer: I totally brought curries to school, and I was just like, "Tastes good, y'all."
Yeah. When I was in university, I took a lot of liberties in terms of bringing food to university. I think at that point I was pretty confident in my own identity. So I'd bring in like curries, and we had like a microwave, and I would microwave my food, and it would smell up the whole place, and I'd be like, I have good food. Have fun with your pasta.
Yeah. I think like apart from like, I don't know, clothes and language and all the other things that make up culture, for me, it's like been food. That's been one of the only things that I don't know, I was like confident or like comfortable just like bringing out into the world and sharing that.
It like transcends like attitudes towards things. Like I feel like people will have attitudes towards how you're wearing something, or like how you speak, and like all of those things can mean that you have to sort of shy away, or like you change it and you feel ashamed by it. But like if you give someone something and it tastes good, it tastes good, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it tastes good, and this is like who I am, you know?
You're right. Food just does hit different.
Exactly. It just hits different. And I think that's beautiful.
I think I'm going to try to see if I can talk to my grandpa about some food, see if I can pull some information.
Yeah.
Out of his being.
Yeah. You make it sound like an interrogation. Tell me what you know.
Cool. I think that we got everything here. Thank you.
Amazing.
For chatting with me.
No problem. Anytime.